My name is Tim Drummond, and I am here with a 17-minute training. If you are a personal trainer, if you've been in the industry for at least 5 years and often getting on for a decade or more, probably over sort of 35, have a busy client roster. This training is for you if you want to know how to launch an online program. And for you, one of the key aspects of being able to launch this online program is that results don't suffer. You actually understand, like, how do I transfer and package up my knowledge that I've gained over that time in the gym, in the face-to-face, and how do I deliver it online? You're probably confident that you could do it. It's just like the how do I package it up? Excuse me, where do I start with that? Because I'm actually going to give you an insight into the 12-week behavior change blueprint, which is a methodology of coaching clients online with behavior change coaching that I developed about 8 years ago now. I developed it, first of all, from being in the trenches in the gym and then making the move online and looking around where in the mentorship, the program that I was in at the time. And I got some traction very quickly. But I kind of started to notice that the people around me would not make as many sales. They would get more refunds. They would get more people leaving the program. They would get more sort of complaints at the end of the program where these people had spent a lot of money with them and me. And they were just getting like, they didn't seem to be having a good experience in this mentorship program. Now, I was doing very well. I made money very quickly. And I always wondered, like, as I was looking around, like, why are these people struggling with even just closing sales? And it hit me once when the person who was the mentor, who, by the way, was changed my life at the time. And, you know, I went this way. I could have stayed where I was. Glenn. He asked me to do a training on how I was delivering what I was doing and how I had the confidence I had when I was having sales conversations with people and closing at the rate I was to the other guys in his program. And that made me realize at that moment, I was like, I'm actually doing something different than all of these other guys that are struggling. That's what I've seen over the last decade of people, good, ethical, experienced personal trainers, either not make the move, or when they do, it just like dabbling and it not working, to the people that get online and make a real go of this. I'm going to give you an insight into the first 3 weeks of the behavior change coaching blueprint. I'm reasonably generous with giving you this IP. If you want to put in the comments, behavior change blueprint, 12-week behavior change blueprint, I'll give you the whole training, the bundle, the training bundle that I've got. Let me go through how I'm going to structure this on the call. The behavior change blueprint, I would say, like, we could split it into 4 layers. And I'm going to go through, like, I'm not going to go through the whole thing because it's out of scope of getting this video in about 15-17 minutes. I'm going to go through like an overview of the 4 layers of how we construct it and how we think about it and what you would do with someone in the first 3 weeks. I have had people that have watched trainings like this and watched other trainings of mine and got my freebies, and they've gone out and they've actually made sales and brought clients into the program. They're generally the people that have done a little bit more sort of coaching, behavior change coaching, like they're kind of into mindset. I've had other people that have got the free stuff and they're like, shit, Tim, this is what I want to know. I want to be a behavior change coach. I get why that's the methodology that I could move online and confidently charge 2-3K. Like, how do I join your program? Or they're somewhere in between, or they just think this is a load of crap and it just doesn't make sense to me. And all of those are more than welcome. So if you're in this group, you're probably not in that frame, or you're probably going to leave the group after watching some of my content. So we look at it into no shit, Tim. This is original training, nutrition, habits, and then behavior change. And I'm going to go through what each of those looks like and my ethos on how you do this very specifically with clients that are paying you high ticket fees. So we're not just putting them in a faceless membership site or selling them some sort of low ticket product. We're going to sit there on a sales call with them and we're going to have a conversation. Do you want to get your problem fixed properly for the first time ever? Yes. Do you want this solution? Do you want a solution that sticks? Yes. Okay, so here's how much the program is. And they say yes, and they come into your program. What would that program look like? So week 1, in fact, no, let's look at it training. Here's what I do with training. I believe that the power is in the coaching call. And what I mean by that is you have a call with your clients, a Zoom call, and when you're online, it saves you time. The old way of doing things is like, oh, I just do like email coaching with them, or I like look at what they're doing in their app and their training programs and their rep ranges, and I do them like a Loom video that takes me half an hour, and then I send it to them, and then I get a million of questions back. And by the way, often the advice that you give them goes in one ear and out the other, because like it's not advice, it's implementation that's important, and you just don't get to actually have a proper human to human coaching conversation, the personal side of this, that you would if you had a Zoom. So first of all, you have a Zoom call with them each and every week through the 12 weeks. It actually saves time, which most people would not understand. You can get results with clients that are paying you what, £160. If you're charging 2k, what's that, £160 a week? And you get the results with, anywhere between sort of half an hour, 45 minutes, 40 minutes. Sometimes at the beginning, there's nearer to an hour with some of the stuff that you're going to do with them. But towards the end of the 12 weeks, they're kind of rolling, right? So what we understand the values in the coaching call. The reason I say that is because I don't program anything, and I wouldn't advise you to program anything until they have finished the first call. Prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. One of the keys of the blueprint, if you want it, 12-week behavior change blueprint bundle, if you put a comment in, I'll make sure you get it, is that we use checkpoints, or I created it with checkpoints in mind. And all I want them to do by week 4 is to get to be training consistently 3 times a week for 30 minutes. Now, all of you very bright spots be like, oh, Tim, but what happens if they're already training 4 times a week for an hour? Well, if they are, and they're 20 pounds overweight, like, what do we think the problem is? Do we think it's the quality of their training, or whether they're doing 6 reps or 8 reps? No, it's the other option of the calories in, calories out equation, which is that they're eating too much. So if I get a client in and they're actually, and I ask them in the first coaching call, we have a structure on this, tell me about what you've been doing. All I'm trying to do over those first 4 weeks is just improve them a little bit. But, and this is really key, if they are already training 3 times a week for 30 minutes, maybe I could up them to 45 minutes because the checkpoint happens at week 4. I generally just look over and go, yeah, look, this is good. Keep going with what you're doing. Unless they're doing something stupid. And to be honest, as long as they're active, that's enough. Because what we do is we actually look at where the big movement lay, and that is often in the nutrition. So what do they do in the nutrition layer? I have literally finished the training. That's it. Most of the time, if they're sitting on their sofa, which, by the way, a lot of online clients haven't been to the gym for 6 months. Week 1, I have a conversation. What exercise do you like to do? Don't care what they say. And how many times do you want to do that this week? And how long would that be? If you understand behavior change coaching, when they make the decision, they are way more likely to do the thing than when you tell them, when it's their idea. So they might say to me, oh, I'm going to run around the park for 3 30-minute sessions. Awesome. It's one of their 2 to 3 things that week. So then I move on to the nutrition. And I mean, in this training, but just generally as well. In the 12-week behavior change blueprint, we get to calories because I believe that calories do matter. Like I wrote a book and it said calories aren't that important. Like this was kind of the sort of ethos of the industry when I first started, like Poliquin, etc. By the way, I also know there's a nuance to this. But a lot of the stuff I learned at the beginning is like calories are important, but they're not the most important. It's about what quality of food you eat, which is all true. But calories are important, that people understand literally how much they're eating because they need to be in a calorie deficit, right? So we understand that, but we generally start looking at using MyFitnessPal in about week 4 or 5. Up until then, here's what we do in the first 3 weeks. You can literally copy this. When they get closed, when you close the sale, when they join your program, they paid you £2,000, you look at your bank. This is the first thing that happened to me. I looked at my banking app and I'm like, oh my God, there you go. I've got some money, or Stripe it was, for this new way of doing things. It was quite good. And between that and the first coaching call, they are asked, we have an automation, but you can do this manually if you need it first. They are asked to bring 3 days worth of food diary to the first call. In fact, all they're asked to do is 3 days worth of food diary to the first call and their measurements. That's all that they get asked to bring to that first call. We don't do loads of other stuff because you want to lower things like refunds, etc. And on that first call, I just get my guys, and I'm going to suggest to you, you just screen share the photos of the food that they've eaten, and you ask them, what would you like to change? We choose two options, two different things they want to change. One is always breakfast. So we focus on breakfast. What would you like to change about breakfast? And the key here is, as long as they don't say something that's dumb, and as long as they make an improvement, that's all I'm focused on. And I can use questions as the answers, like, did you know that protein is a good thing to eat? Yes. Have you heard that? Yes. What do you know to be good protein foods? What would you know? Like, I'm always asking questions. I like eggs. And by the way, I know eggs aren't totally protein, but fine. Okay, awesome. Yogurt. You like yogurt and fruit? Yes. Okay. Would you like to do that? Yes. I'm going to eat that each day. Right. And that's it. Now, then I look at the rest of it and I say, what one other thing do you want to do that will improve it? I'll give you an example. Client was drinking 3 cans of Coke a day, looked at the photos and goes, well, maybe I should stop drinking the cans of Coke. And I was like, what do you think? He's like, I'm going to stop drinking the cans of Coke. Okay, is that a goal? Yes, we've got 2 goals for the food, and that's it. Then they go away and they do the goals. And by the way, the guy lost like 2 pounds in that first week because he stopped consuming 400 calories worth of Coke. Habits, what do we do? By the way, so sorry, for the rest of the 3 weeks, what do we do? In the training, we just keep increasing it towards getting towards that place where they hit the first checkpoint in week 4, which would be 3 times a week for 3 times a week for 30 minutes or 3 times a week for 40 minutes. Can't remember. It will be in the freebie if you want it. Then what do we do with the nutrition? Well, breakfast, lunch, dinner through the first 3 weeks. By the way, when someone's spent money with you, they're already psychologically making other choices as well. They will improve other things. We just bring the focus to their lunch the next call and their dinner for the next call. What do we do about habits? Like, habits are baked into this. Again, everything that I've just told you is a habit-based approach. 6 keys of the blueprint, which is a training that you can have access to. It's in that guide. 2 to 3 things each week. Start slow, finish fast. These are the kind of concepts that we use around habits. Do I give my guys a bit more free rein on the type of habits? Some of them bring, say, steps a little bit further forward. Some sort of do sleep, etc. But again, I want to take the big rocks first and then move that through. The habitual nature is how you deliver the nutrition and the training and the lifestyle concepts or actions, right? We just do habits with 2 to 3 things each week. Habits aren't anything in essence on their own. They're only habits of a certain thing or action that we want them to do, and that normally sits in the training, the nutrition, or some sort of lifestyle stuff. So again, just change 2 to 3 things each week for the first 3 weeks. Any more than that, and you just don't need to. This is the joy of when you do online properly, is you don't need to, because they will lose 2 to 3 pounds each week, and they start to believe that they can do that. One thing that I say at the beginning call, I'm like, look, you said to me on the sales call, like, that you generally have been through this for the last decade, that you try everything at once and it's all or nothing, and it just ends up like you lose a bit of weight and you put it all back on and then you beat yourself up. Like, do you recall that? And I say, yeah. Look, would we accept then that approach has not worked? And they say, yes. Cool. So can we agree right now in day 1 that we're going to try something different? Because doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome, is the definition of insanity, right? And they'd say, yes. I say, so can we do it how I believe that in the end you've hired me, where I know that this is the best way to do it? Yeah. So if we could say, if I ask you this, if we could change, say, 2 to 3 things each week, which I know, by the way, some people are, I want to do more than that. Whether I'm talking to the client, I'm like, but let's say over the next 12 weeks, if we could change 24 to 36 different habits and different actions that you do each week, do you think we'd get closer to your goal? Do you think we'd be closer to the goal that you've got? Yes, they say. Awesome. So can we start that this week? Yes. All right. So here's your 3 goals for this week. That's it. That's the simplicity of it. Nothing else. It's too much online. Your program, if you're doing online or you're going to try and go and create it yourself, I can tell you now your program will be too complicated. And even if you're sitting there going, yeah, no, I've heard that, so I made it not complicated, your program will still be too complicated. You should look at what you give. And this is the frame that I give. If I had seen the kind of programming that I gave my clients, who at one point were paying me like £3,000, which is like $4,000 for the 12-week program, in week one of being a personal trainer, I would have thought that person is an absolute fraud. How the hell can they charge that sort of money for that basic information? Because it's basic information. And our job as smart behavior change coaches or smart coaches is to understand that it's implementation, not information. Information, the complex stuff, comes much later on. Behavior change, and this is where the gold is. Behavior change is the level of coaching, the tier where we fundamentally change things like identities. We change things like behaviors. It's not just habits. Habits are just things that you do. We want to make them. An example from NLP, we use a concept called future pacing. And what we do is we create a character, an avatar, a persona of them who is this person that has all the things that they want. Sexy, gorgeous, ripped, abs, 20 pounds lighter. And I get them to write a document, which is in week 3, which is called Who Do You Want to Be? And it's a character description of the version of them that is the version that's 20 pounds lighter. So in week 3, they have a document which they fill out. There's a few questions and then they turn it over. And on the other side is an A4 page and it says, write a character description of the version of you that's 20 pounds lighter. And you know what? There's questions on the first side, which is like, how do you eat? If you ask a client to write down how does the version of them that's lost the weight, how do they eat? You see the gold in something as simple as that, which is normally not, I eat donuts for breakfast and pizza every night and curry and drink loads of beer. It's normally always the same. Green, fresh, local, maybe organic. Like sometimes they sort of include like, oh, when I have treats at the weekend, I eat. It's like, then they've got something that it's not a goal. It's a behavior, a collection of behavior, an identity, a type of person that they now know is a version of them in the future that exists. Our job is just to get them to that version. Then what we do, well, we actually do it chronologically. In week 2, we do something similar. The reason I like talking about week 3 first, because I think it really helps. In week 2, I asked them to start with something similar, but it's who are they now? Again, questions: how do they eat? How do they train? How have they eat in the past? How did they grow up eating? What do they think about themselves? What do they think about their body? And then a character description on the other side, which is just a character description of who they are. We want a sort of bridge goal is where are you now? Where do you want to get to? We have to have a start and a finish with their behaviors, not just like the training program. So now imagine that in week 3, when the client arrives in week 4, they've got 2 documents. One is the kind of person they are, a character description of who they are now with their actions, with their behaviors, with how they think about themselves, their identity. And the other one is a version of them in the future that could exist. And our job is to navigate them from one to the other and give them feedback of when they are starting to behave like this other person. Because most overweight clients have a massive self-esteem issue. Like, they don't know this, but they do. They have a massive self-esteem issue. Because, and maybe it's just it, I believe self-esteem is also location bound, in the sense that they might have high self-esteem at work, but in this area of their life it's very low. And we need to build that into a new belief system that they are a healthy person that keeps it for the long term. Week 1, I know I'm going backwards. Week 1 is a Demartini assessment. And really, Demartini, what it does is it helps them link what's really important to them. So you ask them to, you can Google this one. It's like a Demartini assessment. And there's 14 questions, and then it gives them the areas of 3 highest values in their life. And that will often be like work, kids, and maybe, I don't know, sometimes it's health, by the way, but it could be learning, could be travel, for instance. Let's say those 3. And then what you're doing is you're helping them see, well, this thing that might not be a high value in their life, by the way, health and fitness might not be. In fact, often when they come to you, it's not. And you know what? Maybe it never will. Maybe they're not you. Maybe they will never fall in love with training. But what they do give a shit about is their work and their family and whatever else. It's normally them too. So then we have something to actually deeply intrinsically motivate them with. So we look at a DeMartini assessments. That's what the first 3 weeks of the behavior change blueprint looks like. There's a mixture of simplicity and I would say somewhat complexity. But one of the things that I love this phrase, the only simplicity to be trusted is the other side of complexity. So it should look very, very, very simple for these clients, but there's smarts involved in this whole structure. The behavior change stuff is life-changing for clients. You want referrals, do this. You want clients to look back at you as the last coach they ever hired. You want them to tell all of their friends for the next 5 years what a genius you were. You want to feel good about what you're doing and not be the guys in that program where, maybe they lucked out and sold a couple of programs, but then they just didn't feel right with just giving someone training programs, and then it was just an absolute shit show because they never followed anything, and then they ended up getting refunds. So if you want the training, I did pretty well there. We got to 25 minutes or so. If you're watching this on YouTube, I might have even sped it up a little bit, and maybe I even edited it, so maybe it was a little bit less than that. If you're watching it on the live, you would have got about 21 minutes. If you would like the blueprint, the behavior change coaching blueprint, if you would like the guide that I give away, just comment behavior change blueprint guide in the comments and it's yours. All right, speak soon.